Welcome back to Versus, RX Muscle's original TV program that pits champion versus champion. Brought to you by Quest Nutrition. Visit questnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo and I'm here with Chris the Technician Aceto. And today's battle is Cedric McMillan versus the one and only Lionel Beyeke, who will be squaring off this weekend at the 2017 Arnold Classic. Chris, this is a battle royale, I call it, the battle of the shapes, the round muscle bellies, whatever you want to call it, the classic physiques. This is going to be one for the ages today, and it'll be one for the ages come Saturday night, because these guys are going to be squaring off against each other on stage. Beyeke coming off that big win at the San Marino Pro at the end of last year. Cedric coming off the win in Poland earlier in 2016, and the 2 second places at the Arnold USA and Arnold Australia. Talk to me a little bit about, right off the bat, why is Cedric McMillan so special?
You know, this is a versus show. It should be Cedric versus Cedric. Which damn Cedric is going to show up? Right? We could have a whole show on that. Why Cedric is so special is because, you know, he's tall, he's wide, he's got a small waist, he's got crazy tie-ins, he's got a beautiful physique. You know, he's got charisma on stage, he's funny. He's got all the tools to, you know, be the best really bodybuilder in the world, or one of the very, very, very best in the world. And, you know, he has, there's two Cedrics. There's the Arnold Cedric and there's the Olympia Cedric. The Olympia Cedric either doesn't show up, or he shows up and gets seventh, you know, or the Arnold Cedric shows up and he's usually really round at the first show of the year. And, you know, but there's always some type of crazy controversy at the Arnold, whether it's he's winning the show or, you know, he's not in the first call out, but then when he's compared to the top guys, you know, he's dead center in the middle. So there's always something. There's always some type of drama going on with Cedric McMillan.
The way I see it, Cedric McMillan's got those round muscle bellies that we just like to look at. The delts, the arms, the pecs, on the back double bicep, the flaring back with all the round little detailed muscle in between. He is a tall guy at over 6'1", and you know that sometimes works to his disadvantage because his legs, if they're not in shape or they're not full enough, could look stringy. Terrific detail in his legs, however, when he does, you know, pose them. I have to say that his posing is spectacular on stage. He really enhances his physique as opposed to some of these guys that actually, you know, detract from their physique. So he has a lot of gifts that he brings to the stage, but like you pointed out, it's very, very confusing as to which Cedric you're going to get.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, you know, this show you're going to get an A+ Cedric, I hope. You know, he's bigger. And the important thing there is, you know, at the end of the day, he has to be bigger. Cedric can't chase glute condition and give up, you know, everything that he has, you know, and that is an internal struggle that he has. And you saw that at the Olympia, you know, he's just trying to chase condition. And I'd say you can chase it if you want, you know, but it's like, you know, it's not the best or the smartest strategy to take. You know, I always tell people, you know, be your best. And be your best is that does not mean be the most shredded. That does not be the most round. It means be the best to show off your own attributes. You know, with the Dexter Jackson, it's conditioning at all costs. If Dexter can come into a show, you know, bizarrely conditioned, he jumps right into second place at the Olympia. You know, if he comes in full and in great condition, he falls to third or fourth. So, you know, some people you can't just say chase condition.
Let's talk about Lionel Beyeke now, because Lionel had a bunch of good years, then he had a bunch of bad years. We heard he was diagnosed with diabetes, where he was going to be an insulin-dependent diabetic. He prayed, and by the graces of God, he was healed, and I don't say that in a humoristic way at all. He no longer requiring insulin. He made a comeback last year, or at the end of, I should say, 2015, but 2016 proved to be a terrific year for him, which he capped off with the big win at the San Marino Pro. What are Lionel's gifts, in your opinion, the strongest attributes that make him a dangerous competitor?
It depends on, you know, where he is. You know, he's got muscle maturity, when he's in good condition, and he's got muscle density when he's in good condition. And he's, struggled. I used to call him the chocolate donut because he had like 7 shows in a row where he was just not in shape. And, I know, obviously he's hooked up with that goofball. I'm just kidding, George. I wanted to make fun of Hanny Barbera, which is Hanny Rambod. Hanny Barbera is a cartoon. He reminds me of a cartoon character. Dallas too. Dallas and Beyeke used to work with Hanny. And it's funny that Dallas made all these massive gains after not working with Hanny, and Beyeke struggled with Hanny condition-wise. And I like to make fun of George, but I can't make fun of him here because George hooked up with Beyeke, and Beyeke's been in great condition the last couple shows, and I expect him to be in great condition here as well. Maybe probably his all-time best.
Lionel was 3rd at the Arnold Asia, 3rd at the Arnold South Africa. He was 4th at the Mr. Olympia Europe show, and then finished off the year, obviously, with the big win in San Marino, getting better and better from each show. Now, I still didn't see the best Lionel Beyeke that I think he's capable of in San Marino. Obviously, it was good enough to win at that show. The talent pool wasn't that deep. Beyeke, obviously, going into this year's Arnold, this is going to be the biggest show, I guess, of the year for him. And this is the show that people are waiting for. They're waiting to see if he can make a statement here. George said to me, at least, at the San Marino Pro, that when he comes back in 2017, it will be a different, because George said he only worked with him 6 weeks. He said this will be a different Lionel Beyeke. The question is, does Lionel Beyeke have the tool set to win the big show?
He does. I think he does. He's got to be a major threat. Put it this way: he's a major threat to Cedric McMillan at Cedric McMillan's best. Keep in mind, Cedric got 2nd last year to Kai Green, and he beat Kai Green in prejudge it. Not my opinion. That's just how it went down on the scorecards. So we're not talking about beating, the 4th and 5th and 6th place guy. We're talking about beating the guy Kai Green, who is Kai Green. He's at a whole different level than most people. So, having said that, I think the best Beyeke would match up extremely well against Cedric or Kai from last year. Because he has full pecs, he's got width to his back, he's got great arms, big pecs, small waist. Very good thighs from the front. Probably the only knock to him is in terms of development is back width from behind. He's amazing as wide as he looks from the front. That's set off because of the small waist from behind. He's not that wide, and his hamstring and development is not that thick from behind. But those are the only flaws. Otherwise, he's got great, color on stage. He's got good skin texture. He's got all the tools. He's a strided muscle. He doesn't have oiled up fake muscle. Things happen when he poses. Anyone who doesn't take this guy serious is foolish.
Let's talk about the battle that's going to take place on Saturday. Beyeke versus Cedric McMillan. Let's do it pose by pose as we always do here at Versus. And let's see who we pick will win the virtual pose down. So let's put up front double.
Which pictures are you going to put up? Which Beyeke and which Cedric?
You can't see the pictures, but I can.
Huh?
We're doing Arnold Classic pictures of Cedric, and we're doing what? San Marino of
yes,
Lionel?
you got to take San Marino because that was his best.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to take
Cedric McMillan versus Lionel Beyeke front double bicep. Who wins? Why?
I think Cedric because he's taller and just a bigger guy. If Cedric, and if Cedric can beat, I think Cedric there. I think Beyeke's got a fabulous front double bicep. I think when you put them next to each other in real life, Cedric will appear to be the bigger guy with greater flow through the lats.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, 100%. I'm going to give that to Cedric McMillan only because, like he said, sometimes big does beat smaller. I think Cedric's lines are as good as Beyeke's and vice versa, but Cedric's just a bigger version. So I think in that front double where you really open up, I think that Cedric is impressive. Front lat spread. This is
I give this to Beyeke. I think he's fabulous in it. You know, his waist disappears, the quads, you know, are just look ridiculously round from the front on that shot. I think you know, his legs are full enough that they, you know, would make Cedric's look long. You know, and one of the things that you know doesn't work well for Cedric is to have long-looking legs. That's what happened at the Olympia, and he just, like, you know, got smoked into seventh.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that Cedric McMillan has a tremendous front lat spread. I think, you know, I always think of the old Lee Haney lat spread where he would hit the lat spread and you couldn't see any space between his arms because his lats were taking up all that. They were coming out so much from his sides. Very few guys have that. Dorian had the same thing going on. I see a lot of Cedric in that as well. I see so much lat on Cedric's front lat spread. While his legs are a little on the smaller side, he seems to hide them well. He poses them so he shows a lot of detail. I'm edging towards Cedric on that pose. We'll have to call that one a tie. Let's do side chest. This is a big one. This is where sometimes the shorter guy beats the taller guy.
Cedric, when Cedric's full, he's phenomenal in this shot on stage. The height works with Major League, and when he's full, he's impressive, period. And Beyeke's phenomenal in this shot as well. I just think that Cedric has also, when he's full, a crazy hamstring drop from the side.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures. This is a tough shot. I might give it to Beyeke because his pecs and delts and arms are so thick.
Yep. Beyeke's, he's dead to the. You know, you could. I could see Beyeke winning that shot too.
I'm gonna call that one a tie because you and I both have different opinions on that one. Side tricep. This is one of the poses that I always felt that Cedric should decimate people on, but for some reason he doesn't really pull this one off so well. What do you think?
It's not really a memorable pose on him. You know what I mean?
But it should be because he's got such a small waist. I don't know why he hits it so unconventionally.
I think he like shrinks his whole body down.
Yep. And you know you can't give him any advice whatsoever when it comes to posing.
Squat down too low or something, Dave?
Yeah, he throws his arm down. He doesn't really grasp.
Give me advice to give to him when he flies in on Saturday morning, so that when I say Dave thinks you could hit the side tricep, so he can say, "I won't even interview on that fool's show, man." What the fuck? I take him. He
can't take criticism from anyone, even if
he's
when it's
living
constructive.
on a plantation out there in Coral Gables.
Who wins the side tricep, Beyeke or Cedric? I think they both have the same issues, to be honest with you, on this pose.
Yeah, I think they do. They're both poses where they both should look crazy and they both don't look good in.
No, you're right. I don't know. I should we call it a tie?
I mean, I know how Beyeke hits his too, and it's like, I know how Cedric hits his, and it's like,
We'll call it a tie. Let's do back double bicep. Back lat spread. Same. So let's assess both back poses because Johnny doesn't have any lat spread poses.
Back double Cedric.
I give it to Cedric too. What about back lat spread? I also give that to Cedric.
Oh, I give the upper body to Beyeke, but his lower body is like, it's weird. He's thin in the hamstrings, and Cedric is thin in the hamstrings too. But you know what I mean. But I think Beyeke's even thinner in the hams.
Beyeke's got a good back. You're right. I mean, it is a
very
tough,
good. It's
tough
all
call.
knotted up.
Once again, I think bigger is better in this case, just like the front double. But you could give. I think it's going to come down to which one of these guys is more conditioned because both of them seem to suffer in the hamstring glute area sometimes when they don't come in tight enough. And then likewise, like you said, if they come in too tight, they both look too flat back there. So
yeah.
It's a good matchup. Let's go to ab thigh, Chris.
Beyeke.
Okay, I go along with that too. Why?
He's got cross striations in his quads, even when he's looks like the chocolate donut.
Yeah.
His abs, it got nice, like, you know, when he sits on them, they fall where they're supposed to fall, which is, you don't even see that in bodybuilding anymore. Nobody even has abs like where they fall where they're supposed to fall anymore. You know, too much GH insulin and too much GH and insulin. Though someone would say, no, it's a food issue.
Let's take a look at the most muscular shot. This is both guys have tremendous crab shots. Who's better?
On the crab, Cedric. Beyeke can't do a crab. He don't look big in the crab. He does that like little 1970s shot where he looks great in. But you know what? I'll tell you what. Why it hurts Beyeke. Sean Roden can't do a crab well.
No.
And he has to try to, when it comes down to the most muscular, right? Think of this. Wolf, crazy most muscular. Dexter, I don't care how small you think Dexter is. On the most muscular, looks amazing.
Yeah.
And Phil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when it comes to Sean Roden, for example, on his most muscular, he can't hit a crab. So it hurts him. He can beat people if they both do the hands on hips most muscular, beat the whole lineup. But it's called they don't ask for a hands on hips most muscular. They want a most muscular. And because Beyeke, I've seen him in it, he doesn't look right in it. And I think that's why amazingly, he doesn't look big in it. So that's why he hits that shot that he looks fabulous in, that 1970s thing. And if Cedric hits, which he would beat Cedric for sure in that like hands on hips most muscular.
Yeah.
But a crab most muscular, Cedric looks really big in it. So I think Cedric there.
Well, so if I add up all the scores, taking out the ties that we had for a few of them, and where we didn't agree, we both agree that Cedric pretty much 4-1 beats Beyeke overall. Now, we don't know what's going to happen this Saturday night. It's impossible to tell, because who knows who's going to show up in shape. And that's always we always try to handicap these shows, Chris, based on the best version of the bodybuilder that we have in our head. But ultimately, not everyone shows up at their best. Maybe 50% of the people show up at their best. 25% of the people show up at their best.
Yeah.
And that's why there's always a surprise.
100% of the 212 guys will be at their best.
Yeah.
It's just when you get into the open, it's just like, right?
It's a free-for-all. If you were a betting man, who do you put your money on for the Arnold Classic?
I put it on Cedric only because of this. He has a good and a bad history here. The bad history is the placings. The good history is his looks. You can go back last year. The bad was his placing. He's running first and then to get second, but he looked great. The year before, the bad placing for him, fourth, but he looked great. Arnold comes out and says, he looked, that big controversial Arnold statement. The year before, it's so many, this Arnold for him, he was third. He looked great, but ran into like a Roden and a Wolf. Probably those might have been, it was definitely one of Wolf's all-time best looks and definitely one of Roden's all-time best looks. And they were so hyped coming into the show, as this showdown, that it was like Cedric was, although he was good enough to be right there with both of them, he was, he got third. So I think because of the history, I think that the luck for Cedric may turn and he'll come in looking good like he has, but get a placing that he wants.
Well, we won't know till this Saturday, but I will tell you one thing. Cedric McMillan reminds me of the New York Mets baseball team. They always found a way to lose and drive you crazy as a fan, but when they won, it was the greatest celebration of all. They made it the most exciting they possibly could, and I think that's Cedric McMillan. If he wins this weekend, it will be the greatest victory he ever had, and I guarantee he probably will interview with us, and it'll probably be one of the best interviews I ever do. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to take us to the end of this episode of Versus, brought to you by Quest Nutrition. Visit questnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris the Technician Aceto. We'll see you this weekend in Columbus, Ohio.